If there was one thing that every great producer has in common, it's that behind their success is a long trail of unreleased, scrapped, and straight up terrible music. But as a listener, you have no concept of the extent of this, because naturally, you're hearing only the finest work, which is at best 10 to 20% of what they're actually recording. And this is after years of honing the craft already. When asked about how to get better at making music, house producer Luttrell said this: just write a lot, then throw away anything that isn't up to your standards. Sometimes it's gold, mostly it's okay or bad. Just gotta write a lot and you'll get a decent amount of gold. Of course, this gold is relative. A pro's throwaway track will sound a lot better than, say, a beginner's masterpiece. So let's think of gold as a project that you as a producer are truly proud of. So there's a sort of 80-20 principle to making music. The harsh truth is that, on average, for every 10 tracks you make, you'll only have a measly 2 tracks where you'll really feel something special. This is kind of depressing to accept, but what you do next after a bad session is crucial to your growth as a producer. You see, not every bad session is worthless, because hidden deep within each of these are some tiny flakes of gold. Maybe there's a really unique synth you designed, or some groovy percussion you laid down, and you can't let that go to waste. So you have 2 options here: extract these gold flakes and use them for a future project, or if you feel you have enough to work with, just rework the other elements over and over and over until you've transmuted this lump of coal into gold. Look, I know this scenario is a bit idealistic, right? It still really stings when you stick your headphones on the day after you thought you produced something sick, and you're just like, this sounds like shit. It feels like a complete waste of time, and it can send you into this pattern of overthinking things in the future. It's not always easy, but you've got to get the reps in of making stuff you're not proud of to really make those producer gains. And I want to lead the example today, so I documented a studio session where I experienced exactly what I just described, so that I can not only share with you my entire production process as I craft a track from scratch and get one of these said reps in, but also to share with you 3 crucial lessons that I learned after analysing this studio session, so I can show you how to spot the gold and show you how to squeeze the most out of those bad studio sessions, show you what I would have done differently, and explain why things might start to go wrong for you, and explain how you can increase your chances of striking gold in the future. By the way, I'm Jake, and I make music. Because I'm staring at a blank canvas, I need to try and force some inspiration here, so I'll drag this bongo in. I want to give it a bit of a lo-fi feel, so I'll filter out some of the highs. Then I'll stick a delay on this thing. I like this loop. And I'm going to do very much the same thing, so add some effects on it, process it a little bit, cut out some of the high information. Alright, run this through the reverb. That rhythm's a bit out of control, let's sidechain that. Yeah, then we're also going to filter out the high information out of this one as well. So I just turned the wet level up to full, just to change that rhythm up. There's like a little click I can hear. I'm going to cut all the bass out of that and take this little click. I don't want to add anything that's going to affect the groove. All I want to do is add some texture and just try and give this like a little bit more of a vibe. And this could work. Right, that's really subtle, like you probably need headphones to hear it. Yeah, just adds a bit of something. So just to build out the vibe a little bit more, yeah, grabbed this loop. Sort of like a dubby techno kind of sound. And I just took a chop out of it. And then I just ran it through a reverb. sidechain, and then all of a sudden you have a completely different loop. Yeah, the goal of that is I don't want it to introduce some kind of a melodic idea. I just want it to fill out some space. This percussion. I'm going to create like a lazy chop with a volume LFO. Maybe it's an overcomplicated way to do it. It's just a lazy way. So I'll get shaper box. So all it's going to do is duck out some of that loop. I'm going to take this first 4 bars out of it. That could work there. But I want to mould it a little bit in my vision. But I'll do a harsh low cut. I'll try this again where I put the wet level all the way to the top. Not everything has to be in your face. Let's just try and keep this one subtle. My thought process is I want that at the end of a loop to like close out the loop, if that makes sense. Let's try it there. Hey, sounds like fucking negative self-talk ASMR. Let's do it. I'm not afraid of some negative self-talk. Yeah, okay, I can play the one note here. Extend that across to 9 bars. I'm just going to put some hats down. Why not? Let's give it some life. Let's just try and work this in. I want to cut out one of the beats out of it. Let's give those hats a little bit more drive. I'm in a good position now to just try and build something around this. I don't want to confuse the percussion too much. I don't want to confuse the rhythm. So I'll just try and stop adding things other than like hats and shakers. They're okay. They won't confuse the rhythm. Like they're going to be added anyway. I might add them now. Let's add them now. Okay, you know the shaker. Let's try this shaker. I'm going to design something now. Maybe I'll try and find like a pad and add that in. Let's just see what we stumble across. I can't work anything around this loop for some reason. I just can't seem to work any ideas into it. So I think I'm just going to have to take it out, to be honest. Let's just try that. I just want to continue to build out the atmosphere of it. I'm going to add in this pad. So we have 2 layered pads, right? I'm going to layer a 3rd pad that's going to play some kind of a melodic phrase. And then we've really got like a thick atmosphere at this point. I just want to keep it simple today. I just want to get it out, get it done. Let's record this. I'll try and squeeze something out of Diva. I don't know what though. Just to get my thinking cap going, I added a top loop and a kick. I just think that this is going to help to evolve the track. So I've added a kick and a top loop just to give it a bit more toughness, you know. And I'm going to add this bass. So right out the box, throw a sidechain on it and some saturation. And I need to compress this signal. Oh, the chorus works on that. Okay, I want to map this up to the controller so that I can play with the envelopes and the cutoff and that sort of thing. I can play with the cutoff on this bass, yeah, with this knob, which will allow it to do that, and then the envelope will control how much cutoff is going to be opened up. These are the tools we can use to develop the bass and develop the track. But now I feel like this is getting some direction. Yeah, okay, I fucked it up, but it's fine. I'll fix it now. Until I've got some other elements, I'm just going to leave the melody as it is, just a simple one. Because I don't know how I want to change that bass. So let's just leave it like this for now, keep it simple. What I do want to do is, as that cutoff opens up, so if we have this envelope opened up, it will go... Then it kind of opens its mouth, like, you know, a lot wider. But for some of the notes, I don't want that to happen. I just want it to glide. Yeah, you'll see what I mean. So I'm going to automate the cutoff and this envelope here. Yeah, so basic premise is it's opening up when the first note hits. The cutoff goes wow, like it kind of opens its mouth. But then we keep its mouth shut for these last two notes. So basically, there's a nice variation in the character of the bass and in the tone color of the bass. So listen to this. To be honest, this was a decent start. Considering I didn't refine it much, I'm quite fond of the bass. Like, it definitely needs some polishing, but so far I like it. So as for the percussion, you have those bongos and those mallets, and they have some really interesting character. So with some more tweaking, there's some flakes of gold. I'm feeling them. As for the atmospheres and the pads, they're alright, like they can stay for now. It's going in the right direction, but I think it's worth experimenting a bit more to get something a bit more special and full. But listening to this now, the drums just sound a bit thin and lifeless. The groove here needs some serious work, which brings me onto the first lesson I learned, which is that it all starts with the groove. Whether you like to start with the drums or a bass line or a sample, like whatever, you're gonna have a really hard time building any kind of special idea without a groove as that foundation. The groove, it's it's like a treasure map for finding gold. And part of the reason a good strong groove is so important is that it allows you to start enjoying your music as early in the process as possible. And when you're enjoying yourself and you're feeling optimistic about a project, you get into a flow state. So then you're more likely to jam with new ideas or try new sounds and hit that gold. So what I do differently here though to strengthen the groove is I bring those mallets and the bongos more to the forefront of the mix. I'd also try adding some tom rhythm. I'd also reselect the top and those shaker loops with just something a bit more higher quality, and you can end up with something like this. I want to have a note glide upwards towards the end of the 16 bars. And then we've got a nice, interesting bass pattern there. I'll just modulate this so that it goes up 100 cents. For the one note, it can go up. It can slowly modulate up as the cutoff opens up. And then for the other note, it can come down as the cutoff opens up. Yeah, let's preview this. Yeah, let's keep it simple. I'll just have that playing that same rhythm on the C. I think that works. Let's do some processing on this sound to make it a bit more interesting. Right off the bat, I'll just take out the sub-frequencies. Yeah, add a gentle filter as well. And then some saturation. There's also some interesting parameters to automate here, like the envelope, the decay time of the envelope, and of the signal itself. Okay, so I'm going to play with this envelope. We can also automate the decay on the cutoff as well. I'll just draw in something semi-random like this. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just for a bit more variation, just for like two of the stabs, I'll just open this cutoff up like almost all the way. Yeah, somewhere here. We also have this filter, so it opens up, but it gets filtered out. I'll show you what I mean as to why I want to keep this filter on, even though we're doing things like opening the cutoff within the synth itself. Reason being that you have all these delays and other artifacts coming through in the high end that is being filtered out. So yeah, as we're building some tension, we can introduce those artifacts. Yeah, something like that. It's like a lazy way of doing things. What am I thinking now? What am I thinking? Definitely could do a counter melody with a pad. We could introduce an ARP. We could introduce some modular hi-hats. There's options. Let's try and introduce another pad now, but sort of a counter melody. Yeah, something simple like that. Some kind of counter melody like this. I'll record this. Yeah, let's keep it simple. Just another supporting layer. Actually, I'll change this up very slightly. I'll just keep this one muted for now, because it's something I would introduce later. This, I think, is going to confuse me. So it's fine. I'll just leave it there, but I'll mute it. I can do something with this ARP. I think we can develop an idea out of this. I just need to play around with it a little bit and do some processing. Then I think we can work this into the mix. So this is the bass sound, which we then arp over 2 octaves on a 16th note. Big delay. Then we have this sound, and then with the processing, with the shimmer, a bit crusher, and some of the filtering just to take out, just to control the highs. This then brings us to this sound. I'm going to create some kind of motif out of this idea. Okay, I'm just going to record what I feel. Yeah, it's not perfect. I'm not in love with these. I think I want this arp to be a little bit more in your face. So I'm going to try and play another pattern with this. I'll make that pan from left to right as well. Give it some movement. Yeah, so let's record a new pattern. Let's try something like this. Let's try this. I'm just going to take the last 4 bars out of this. I've pushed this arp further back into the mix. And so what I'm going to do now is try and get this vocal to come in gently and have that open up with a filter. Things got a bit rougher in this section, right? For a start, that pitch bend just sounds plain silly. And the stab is taking up way too much space in the mix. And the arp, I don't even want to get started. Does that look like the face of a man who's proud of what he's just recorded? If you don't love it, or feel like you could learn to love it, don't record it. Which brings me onto my second lesson. Don't force ideas. The best melodic ideas I come up with almost feel like they just come out of me automatically, and you feel that instant pride in your work. I should have stopped myself after I started pulling faces like this and just tried something else. However, I was feeling the pitch bend at the time, but it wasn't really needed. The bass was working. And I've just overcooked this now. Good ideas are usually simple ones. The stab, however, that's something I feel like I could learn to love. It just needs a bit more room to breathe. So if I washed it out with some reverb and added some more delays, more filtering, and just played around with it, you can end up with something like this, which is more the idea I had in my head at the time. The vocal falls into this category too, right? It just needs to find its place in the track. I think it's time to arrange it, and that will really help me to feel like what else needs to be added. I'm going to do that now. Just a very rough arrangement. Okay, so approach as usual. I duplicate all this for like 128 bars or whatever. That'll do. And then we're going to take away elements, mute all the things that we don't want, and then we're going to slowly build the track. Filter in certain things, introduce other elements. We just build. So we have to think, what do we not want to start with? Well, we don't want to start with the arp, so we're just going to mute the arp and this vocal as well. Probably not going to bring the arp in until later on. This pad layer, the stab, mute this mallet as well. We don't want to introduce that just yet. And then all of the other shakers, yeah, these shakers, we don't want any of these in just yet. Okay, yeah, this is a good place to start. At 16 bars, we want to introduce another element. So at 16 bars, I'm going to bring in the mallets. While it's on my mind, I'm going to add in some static as well, some more texture. Okay, so I'm going to introduce the mallets and one of the pad layers, and from 16 bars, I'm going to fade them in. Negative self-talk ASMR. Yeah, this element. I don't know where that went. It must have been muted. I completely forgot about that one. This fills out some space really nicely. This can fade in too. You'll start to see why I like to filter things right off the bat, because now there's elements like this, yeah? This one. Like, it's already been filtered. I can now use that as part of a build-up into other sections, like a subtle build-up. So as it, say, gets to 32 bars, I can slowly start to bring this up, and that's just going to build more and more tension. But it was in the background while I was producing, right? So it almost feels like, you know, you find like a $5 in your pocket that you didn't know you had. It's kind of like the same thing. But yeah, you still have enough space to produce. You're not filling it out the space too much. But now, yeah, now we can put this into play. I do want the bass to come in at 32 bars, but I just want it to be a minimal melody and probably just play the one note, so it's like a bass drone, if you will. Because we don't want to give away too much. We need to develop the bass as well. I'll do it like this. I'm just muting the automation, and then I'm just gonna take the basic pattern, so the one note, and it can just hit over and over like this. And then we can slowly fade that in as well. Or rather, like, yeah, filter it in somehow. I also want the stab to come in at this point. Yeah, I also want to fade and filter this in as well. So the same approach I had with the bass, where it was like a minimal opener, I'm going to try the same with the ARP at 49 bars. The other thing I think I'm going to do is take away some elements, take away the bass from 49 bars onwards. So it's almost like an introductory break, and then all the elements will hit at 64 bars. We need to introduce another like shaker at 64 bars, or another hi-hat for some extra drive, or another layered clap. These are all options. I should probably make use of all of those options, so I can bring in all these other supporting layers at 64 bars. The track will then be at full force at 64 bars. Okay, let's add these modular hats. Final push. Okay, so the modular hat, we can do things like play around with the decay of it. So you start off with this, and also I just ran it through a sidechain, just so I want it to have some kind of a rhythm. It's just an easy way of doing things. So then you can play around with the decay, for instance, like this. And just do some subtle things to make it a bit more interesting. I'll fade this hat in as well. Okay, so let's do it like this. So then it can fade in from 32 bars, and some tension can just build, basically. Then at 64 bars, it can come in full force. Then at 64 bars, we can add in an extra clap to add some more drive to the rhythm. Just do it like this. Keep it simple. Okay, so I've made a few variations with the decay. You can also do it with the attack. There's all kinds of parameters you can play with. But I'm just going to leave it as this for now. I'll just take this 8-bar chop and then we can duplicate it like that. Oopsie. And look, I could sit here and roast my work for like the next 10 minutes. There's a lot I would do differently here, but the thing is, it's not actually going to get me anywhere. But what's important here isn't the quality of the track, it's that I've gotten the reps in of sound designing, arranging, writing melodies. So I'm just going to see this as a bad throw of the dice. I actually came back to this and reworked a load of things, and it's turning into a really solid track, which I'll share at some point in the future. Point is, I had the confidence that I could make something that I was prouder of in the future, and I was right in assuming so. Which brings me on to my final lesson, which is don't let it shake your confidence. Every producer of all different levels have bad days at the office, but it's best to see it as one strike of the pickaxe closer to striking that gold. The trick is to learn to detach yourself as much as possible from the end product and just have as much fun as you can and learn as much as you can while producing music. Because the more you do that, the more you write and the more you grow as a producer. And then making something good is just inevitable. But it takes time to figure it out. I'm still figuring it out too. Speaking of figuring things out, up until recently, I was sabotaging my music big time. And it took me ages to realise it. And maybe you do this thing too. So if you want to see me explain how I work through it, click this video next. Go ahead, go watch it.